In the third video of the series, we're going to look at transactional bots. And what we mean by transactional is the idea that they can actually do a transaction for you. So think of something like, I want to submit a vacation request for next week. By default, Chat GPT or others that don't have a context or information about the company, they don't know how to submit that question, right? So they might answer with, submit a vacation request, you should check your company's policy and procedures for requesting time off. This information can be typically found in your employee handbook or by contacting your HR department. And that's not what we want. We want it to be intelligent enough to actually submit it on behalf of the user. And there are some complexities to that we need to first understand. So just to understand where we get that from, we have a couple of options. So first thing we need to do is get a classification. We need to classify what the intent is, like we did in the previous video, where we were identifying what the user wanted to do. So in this scenario would be they want to submit a travel request. So travel request would be the intent and we'd get that through a classifier. The next thing is we need them to enter the information for that form submission. So first option is, of course, using something like Microsoft Bot Framework, which has the concept of form flow and flow design, where you can have like a form set or added inside. Now, Microsoft Azure Bots or Microsoft Power Apps Virtual Agent enables you to either show a form directly like here, where you register for a meal plan trial and you can just enter the information, or it can collect the information based on user's intent and go through a form flow. However, it's a bit clunky in the way it does it because it's very deterministic. But I would definitely, if the need is not, or if it's not required that you create something that would understand and would ask questions about the form fields, having a form like this is very much legitimate and works really well. But again, it really depends on the business use case, because in some use cases, if you want people to be able to do it, let's say while they're driving, it's not very handy for them to be able to enter a form. In that case, we'd want the bot itself to start asking questions about the fields and answer whatever is missing. Now, having said that, I usually prefer giving both options because some users will just prefer to fill it all in at once, while others might prefer to get that question answered, especially if they're, let's say, driving or something like that. So let's see how the other option as well is done. So for option 2, again, we're going to get the classification, and based on that classification, we'll have in some database what each type maps to in terms of fields, form fields. And then we're going to create a completion with previous conversations and start answering. And because this is a little bit more complex, I'm going to actually go and show a demo. Just before I do, I need to shout out for David Shapiro, who has a great YouTube channel. I'm just going to show it here that talks a lot about GPT, and he has a ton of information there. One of them is the infinite memory, and I use Chatbot, and I used a lot of these concepts in the demo I'm going to show. So I just wanted to give a shout out to him before I get started. Okay, so to get started, what I did was I created a new chatbot called Milo. So I gave, in Playground, I gave it the idea of I'm a chatbot named Milo. My goals are to answer any question with the goal of collecting all the fields required to submit a form. The fields I will ask about are start date, end date, from and to only. Now, these would be dynamic. So based on the intent that I got and based on the fields for that intent from the classifier, I would change these fields. So these are dynamic. Ultimately, that our program would change it dynamically. So these would be called fields, for instance, and we'd be able to replace them. But for now, I'm just showing you an example. I will read the previous conversations, then we'll provide a question to continue filling the remaining fields. I will end my response with a JSON formatted list of fields with their answers from user only when I have collected all the form information. So I'm telling it to not create that JSON or not spit out the JSON until you've collected all the information. Now, previous conversations will start as empty, then form type, again, travel request, field, start date, end date, from to. This is just for me to be able to see them. I will now provide an answer and then Milo. Now let's start submitting and see what happens. Hi there, I'm Milo, the chatbot. I'm here to help you fill out the travel request form. What is the start date of your trip? So user would be able to answer. So let's say user will say, I want to travel on the 12th of March 2023. And the way I'll do it is the user's answers are always going to be in the previous conversations so that Milo can be the only one who has information here at the bottom. What is the end date of your trip? So I'll answer. User will say it will end on the 14th of March 2023. Again, what the code will be doing is with every transaction with Milo, it's gonna take the information and add it to the previous conversation here so that it can answer the questions. So I'll say, user will say it's from New York. Again, taking in that information and putting it up there, and then Milo will then answer based on that, what is the to location for your trip? Milo will say, user will say, let's say California. And then again, I'll take this and put it here as the conversation. And then Milo will answer the final answer, which should be all the fields have been filled. Here is the JSON formatted list of fields with their answers. So thank you for using my service. Have a great day. So you can see, of course, what we will do then is parse that and submit it through our API. So this is really cool because in this scenario, you're able to fully collect a full conversation with the user directly from here. Now I want to show you another example. If the user had pre-filled information. So let's say, for example, when I got the intent, I had more information. So in that scenario, I would start by adding user information here with the actual classified intent. So I would say, let's say the user said at the very beginning, I want to travel tomorrow on the 22nd of March 2023 to California. Okay, and I want to see what Milo would be able to do in this scenario. Would they be able to read the previous conversations and answer? Great, so you want to travel on the 22nd of March. What day would you like to return? So it was able to identify 22nd of March as being my start date. And I'll tell it my end date is 23rd of March 2023. Again, user, I need to put user here. And I'll take that and put it here. So you'll see some conversations will start with Milo and some conversations can start with user as well. Now, see, it's saying where do you want to travel from? So let's answer that one as well. User, New York. Okay. And I'll add that again to my previous conversation history. And I'll let Milo answer. I'll say yes. Yes. Perfect. So it was able to answer even though I started the conversation with the user already inputting information. So this is the flexibility you can have using Chat GPT or OpenAI, to be able to create a full conversation with the user and collect that information. This is again useful because you can do it through speech, you can do it while driving a car, you can submit the form and so on. So it gives you much more power. But again, you've seen that I had to chat with it through a multi-step form flow. In some scenarios, the user might find it easier to just fill in a form. And that's why I think both options should be readily available for the user in a chatbot like this.